So good morning, good afternoon to all from all around the globe. I had a quick look to the list and we have participants from all around the world. So myself, Sunita Chaudhary, and from the global perspective, thanks to Lucia, who provided a very detailed foundation on WEFE Nexus and global scenarios. So now from the global context, now we will take you to the regional context, the Hindu Himalaya context. And here myself and Dr. Babar will talk about the potential and also the significance and opportunities of this nexus in this important Himalayan ecosystem. So before that, I'll just give you context about the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. As many of you know, and many of you might not know, the Hindu Kush Himalaya region covers like the mountain ecosystem of the 8 countries, starting right from the Afghanistan west to Bhutan, Bangladesh, China, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Myanmar. And this ecosystem is one of the most important mountain ecosystem and the highest ecosystem, because this region has almost 10 highest mountain peaks in the world. So that's why we often call it the highest mountain ecosystem. And this region is extremely rich because this region hosts 10 major river basins of the region, providing a lot of like water resources and ecosystem. And it is a global asset, not only for food, energy, carbon, culture, but it is also extremely rich in freshwater ecosystem, because this region has the largest ice cap beside the polar caps. That's why we often call this region as the third pole and also water tower of Asia. Next, please. So with a lot of like freshwater ecosystem, this provides a good irrigation system to towards the Hindu Kush Himalayan 8 countries, but also downstream. That's why we have diversity of food and also wild genetic diversity. That's why this region is often known as the important food bowl of Asia. And if we see from ecosystem perspective, this is extremely rich in the region. Out of like, the region has 4 major global biodiversity hotspots. We also have more like almost 313 important bird areas. And if we see from the last 100 years, we have been able to establish 557 protected areas across the region, showing the extreme diversity in the species, genetic, and also ecosystem diversity. And these ecosystem provides a lot of services directly benefiting 240 million people in the region. And if we see at the global scale, indirectly, the region is providing more than 35% population of the world. So whatever happens in this region is directly and indirectly affecting other parts of the globe. That's why we often call this region as the pulse of the planet. Next one, Dr. Bhav. Yeah. So if you see, we want to highlight that this region is extremely rich in water sector, and we have a lot of hydropower potential, though not made, but you can see right from Afghanistan down to Myanmar, there is a lot of hydropower potential in the region, providing not only hydropower, but also irrigation systems. So that's why we say that it is extremely rich ecosystem in the region. And with this, what we want to highlight that the wetland system, the forest ecosystem, different varieties of ecosystem in the region are the base of sustainable development goals. And without conserving this, without highlighting the ecosystem in this nexus, we won't be able to achieve the 2030 sustainable development goals. So I will stop here, providing you a brief context, and I'll ask my colleague, Dr. Babar Khan, to proceed ahead. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Babar.
Thank you, Sunita. Well said. HKH is a global treasure trove and a global asset for biodiversity, water, food, energy, and ancient cultures. Unfortunately, the region is also a climate hotspot. Uh, Studies show that even 1.5 degree Celsius increase in temperature will be too much for the region, and its impact will be more at the higher elevations. Because of its fragility and increasing climate impact, the region has become again a hotspot for multi-hazard risks and disasters. Energy is another major issue which calls for a sort of integrated, inclusive, and nexus approach. More than 80% of the population in HKH countries still depend on vegetation biomass for domestic energy. They don't have access to clean energy resources. Similarly, water security is another emerging and persistent issue. More than 60% of irrigation is dependent on glacial melt, and glaciers are retreating fast, particularly in the eastern part of Himalayas. Per capita water availability is fast decreasing. This almost known to everyone here in this meeting. Food insecurity is another issue. Almost one third of the population in the HKH region is food insecure, and more than 50% is suffering from the malnutrition. Since we are talking about the water energy food nexus, which is obviously not a new concept to the region, neither to the participants in this meeting. But unfortunately, one of the important aspects of this nexus, which is the ecosystem services, is still not integrated properly with the WEFE. Enhanced ecosystems are under severe threat, and their values are least recognized. As a result, there are serious implications on food security, energy security, and water security together, which impede the process of achieving even sustainable development goals for the countries in the region. A careful analysis of the available literature reveals that there are huge potential of synergies and trade-offs between the ecosystem and rest of the three major components of this essential nexus approach. For instance, ecosystem and energy, if we look at ecosystem provides basic sources like biofuels, fossil fuels, water, and solar energy for energy production. But sometimes over-harvesting of water resources, diversion of water courses, drainage of peatland ecosystems and wetlands, solar and wind power installations, and transmission lines damage biodiversity. Similarly,
Two
if we
minutes,
look at
Babarji.
food and ecosystem relation, land use change, fragmentation, invasive species are biggest sort of trade-offs, while biodiversity and species are being used directly. More than 6,000 species are being used as food sources by community. I will not go into the detail of the others. Keeping that in view, we at ICIMOD are very interested to integrate the ecosystem with the other three components of the Nexus approach, linking it with water, food, and energy. We see that the ecosystem is inextricably related with the other three parts, water, food, land, and energy. So there is a potential and scope for adopting this WEFE Nexus approach in the HKH because ecosystem provide tremendous services and products and goods for the benefit and well-being and livelihood and economy of more than a quarter of the world population in this region. And it directly affects uh, almost one-fourth of the population of the world living downstream in the basins of the Asia's rivers. Alongside this, we think that ICIMOD being a regional intergovernmental knowledge center has the great potential to bring partners and establish platforms for regional cooperation and working together. Because of its connections and linkages, functional linkages at the global stage, it can raise the voices of mountain peoples there and help HKH countries to work together on complex and urgent issues like that of climate change, adaptation and mitigation, ecosystem management, disaster risk reduction, and etc. There is another opportunity that all the 8 countries of the HKH are committed in one or the other way to the global targets and multilateral environmental agreements. And last but not the least, the HKH call to action, which has set 6 targets for the HKH countries to work together in their plans. And one of them is to cooperate at all levels across the region. These are ample opportunities, rather befitting opportunities for the HKH countries to work together to better manage their resources and sectors for the sustainability of this important. While moving forward, ICIMOD plans to translate the theory of WEFE Nexus
Need
to
to wrap up, Babaji.
action. Yeah, this is the last slide, Arunji. Here, we really need your inputs, your suggestion and views to help us what could be the best frameworks, methods, and approaches to conduct a WEFE assessment for the HKH. Thank you so much, Arunji.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, for giving the context of Hindu Kush Himalayan region, highlighting the interlinkages between the 4 components, especially highlighting the ecosystem one, and then the opportunities, and also calling on, to identify the methods, approaches, right? So I think that's where we want to go. So I think that's the purpose. So I think you have very nicely laid out the questions, what we are trying to do. Thank you so much.